Hello, welcome. Let's stitch this bunny. So, if you have the kit, you're going to have the printed fabric like this. You're going to have a floss card like this. Make sure you pay attention because we have all 6 strands threaded up here. So pay attention to your instructions, whether you're using all 6 of those or just 2, like how we're going to start. So grab 2. We're going to do the eye. I'm actually going to anchor inside of the eye here because we're going to fill it with padded satin stitch, and you can put whatever you want in that padding. So I'm just going to make like a stitch here. I'm holding on to the back. I split it and I'm just going to come down, and that basically, that makes an anchor. So I'm tugging and tugging and tugging, and my floss is nice and anchored. So that's a alternative you can always use. It's an easy one to hide under padded satin stitch. So I'm just going to add some straight stitches. I guess it's kind of satin stitch. It's like an inner layer of satin. But you can do anything, like I just said. You can do chain stitch, you can do split stitches, you can do, put your initials in there, or whatever you want to do. We're just building up a little bit of depth here. Okay, so now I'm actually going to pay attention to my guidelines and do the satin over. So there was the center. I'm going to go up first. Doesn't matter though, you can go down first. I'm just going to cover the guidelines to create this eye. That seems like too far. And the bottom side. When we do that padding, it kind of helps lift our stitches up a little bit. Gives us a little more depth. That'll help push this eye up kind of above the fur that we're going to create. You can also get in here with your needle and kind of oomph. Give it some oomph. That's the technical term there. Alright, let's move on. So now we're going to do the nose. So it's a little tricky if you look at the different colors we're using for the rabbit. They're very close in color. So make sure you are using like wonderful natural light so you can see what you're doing. So the lighter color, that one's pretty easy to pick out of a lineup here. And then the 2 remaining colors are very, very close, but one of them is a little darker and one of them is a little lighter. So we're starting with the one that's a little lighter. It's called 3782, I believe. Yeah. And that's what we're going to put on our nose. I hope. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. Honestly, you could do either color. It would be fine. But when we do the thread painting, you definitely want to make sure you know which is which. So I think I'm just going to do the same thing here to anchor. I don't think I specifically said to do padded satin for the nose. I think it just says to do satin. But doesn't hurt. Alright, so there's my little anchor stitch. My little T, and then I'm going to go over it with a couple of stitches here. I need to trim my fabric. I keep snagging the corners of it. Okay. Ta-da! So now we get to work on the fur. So I'm going to grab that slightly darker color. I'm going to start with it because I want to start with the body. So I'm going to start around the neck and go down. So I'm going to do that. And alright, so I have the darker color here. You'll notice on your instructions, it has more detail as far as where to add the various colors. So this darker color is basically it's going to be the shadow here, and then it's kind of like the outline of everything. So like a little bit on the edges, a little bit around each arm here, and then like this whole section is pretty much darker as well. So it's up to you if you want to come in with a pen and mark that for yourself. And then similarly, there's you'll see on your instructions some more details. The only details included on the fabric is just where the really light color goes on the face. I'm afraid it gets so busy putting every single little guideline. So here we go. Okay, I have to trim. I keep grabbing this corner of my fabric. Oops. It's getting a little haircut. Goodbye, fabric. Done. Okay. There's something so, I don't know, I trimmed my hair last night, so it's, oops, I forgot I haven't actually, I haven't anchored this yet. Oh man, okay. It's like, how many times was I going to do that before I realized I'd be there forever. Okay, so this time I'm actually holding it back, and we'll go ahead and just split it. We're not going to cover this one, so it's just going to be a part of what we're doing. Alright, here you have a little knot in the back. I see we're not off to the best start here. Okay, I have one of these little twisty knots. I can't actually get it in the camera. Oh, I got it. Excellent. Alright, okay. Serious business now. Okay, so I'm working from just under the chin, and I'm going to go down. So I'm just making a bunch of stitches. Again, in your instructions, you'll see like suggestion for stitch direction. So pay attention to that as well. It's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head. So I'm just going to work to the left now. And sometimes I do them while touching, and then other times I do more of a skipping around like I'm going to do now. I'm going to work my way over and then come back. Honestly, it really doesn't, I don't think it matters. I mean, as long as you're just filling in here. So this is like our first row of long and short stitch. So using lots of different lengths. I should have trimmed that. That's the tail from my black. I should have trimmed it a little shorter, huh? Keep pulling it through. So the reason I suggest doing the body first is because when we do the head of the rabbit, we want some of the lighter color that we do here to kind of overlap these stitches so that it actually looks like, you know, the head's on the body. Jump over because you probably don't want to be here while I stitch the entire bunny. It's going to take hours. So reset your expectation if you thought this was going to be a quick project. It's not, for a couple of reasons. All of the thread painting and just all of the little details, which is what oh my goodness, which is what the project is about. At least it was for me. It was just like fun adding those little surprises, like the little bees, the little seeds on the strawberries. It's a bunch of fun details to get lost in. would like, you can just use a single strand of thread for this. I'm using 2, like the instructions say, and I am okay with that. If you want your bunny to have even like finer fur, go for it. The fewer strands you use, the more easily you'll be able to blend. Okay, let's pretend this is filled in, because it's like, I'm like, oh, well, I'm almost there. And it's like, yeah, but we gotta move on. So I'm gonna show a little bit of like moving down the side. So I'm gonna be piercing previous row, that first row, to work down here. Just one of those knots. One thing I sometimes do is I'll do a thread painting with 2 strands, and then I'll come back and add details with a single strand, which we do a little bit here with the final color. But you can even come back with these colors, this initial base layer of colors. You can always come back with a single strand of them to kind of blend between sections. I did not do that, so it's not necessary, but it's an option. So yeah, I'm just gonna work my way down. You can see it takes a long time. And the only one true always fact, what did I even say? One always true fact, one fact that's always true about thread painting is it's gonna go through an awkward phase. Always. Always, always, always. So you'll be working on yours and being like, this does not look good. I do it every time. I'm like, what am I doing? And you gotta keep going. Just have faith. So I do recommend, you'll see it in the instructions, I talk about it, is to leave some gaps here. So I'm going to stitch up to where the flowers are going to be and leave a little gap so I know where to put them. You can kind of overlap the guidelines a little bit. Like for instance, like for where the daffodils are going to be, like I would leave like a little hole for the flower, but I would stitch over the stem, just because that's going to be kind of hard to leave a trough for the stem to lay in. And then it would, like I just said, it'll lay in it. It won't lay on top of the fur. So I would just, again, just leave a little, even just this top circle, just leave that top circle open, but fill in everything else. Or you can even cover it if you're not too worried about where the daffodils exactly are going to go. Those aren't daffodils. Those are dandelions. So some people will just kind of just randomly put in stitches and then go back and fill, and that's fine too. Whatever works. Whatever works. So, like in this section, we would go to the next color first, right? And work down. I actually, well, sometimes I do it like that, and sometimes I'll do all in one color and then come in and fill with the other color. Either way. Like I do suggest, you know, starting up and then going down, but really, if I do a bunch of stitches and then have to come back and add some on top that aren't exactly from top down, like, it's fur, you know, it's okay. Alright, should we move on? I feel like we probably should. I'll keep going and show you what more of that's gonna look like, but let's move to the face here. Let's do, actually, let's use the color that I have. So, the dark color we're gonna be going up the face like this. Black again. Sorry, I had to pull my own instructions closer to me. I wanted to make sure I'm not deviating. Occasionally I create a new pattern. Which I guess goes to show like there's more than one successful way to do it. Alright, so we can call that like the first row for going up. And then we would split. I'm going to leave a little space because there's a little patch of the lighter color right around here. I don't want to overdo it. So I guess this would be a good example. Like you could either come in and start doing that lighter patch. It's just like a tiny little patch right here that's lighter. So you could do it as you're going by that section, or just leave it open and come back and fill it in. We'll do it that way just so you can see what that looks like. Playing a little bit of thread chicken between now and then. So here again, I'm coming up towards that wreath, or what is this? This is a crown, not a wreath. Coming up towards the crown. I'm getting close to it. You can actually cover a little bit of the guidelines if you want. Leave enough so you know what goes where. Gonna run out here any second. Alright, that's pretty close to out. Alright, so now here's the lighter color I used for the nose. And we'll fill in this little lighter piece that we left. I guess I didn't say, so when I do animal faces or heads, I usually start at the nose and kind of work away from the nose. If you look at the suggested stitch direction diagram, you can see all of the lines kind of radiate away from it. So that's why I like to do that. Alright, and then we have like a patch of this lighter color that goes here. Or this isn't the lightest color. Don't want to misspeak there. This is the lighter of the two colors that are very, very similar. Alright, so that kind of would be row 1. from there, obviously when we fill a sheep with long and short stitch to replicate fur, it's a lot more chaotic than doing long and short stitched, like thread paint a leaf, right? Where obviously there's going to be curves and shadows and whatnot with a leaf, but with fur there's a lot more, well, there's a lot more flexibility. I pretty much lose track of which row I'm in after the first row, which is good. I mean, you wouldn't want like distinct rows on animal fur, right? That's not what animals look like. There's no rows. I am doing one thing wrong. So, if you look at the sample hoop, you may notice that you can't really see these like distinct shapes that are created by the guidelines. It's because they don't really exist. Kind of the eye one is a little bit like this, the shape around the eye we're gonna use the really lighter color. That one's like probably the most distinct, but I'm gonna come back here because I've been making this, like I've been like, I'm staying in the line, you know, and that's, I mean, I guess a bunny could look like that, but I need to come in here and add a little bit of variation because it's it's supposed to look more like, you know, it fades from this slightly darker tan to a lighter tan here. So we don't want to be too strict with those guidelines. All right, so this carries out over here a little more. That's probably pretty good. And then while I'm here, I'll show you, so like it on the body at this side, and we're gonna put continue that darker edge a little bit down the side here, but coming straight down, we go into this color. So when I am popping up through that first row, I want to make sure I have variation in where I'm popping up, right? So I'm popping up, that one was a little bit higher, and then maybe this one will be lower. We don't want it to just be straight across, right? I want it to have some variety, again, so that we're not being too strict with those guidelines. We want well blended color transitions, because this here, this isn't like, oh, the bunny has a dark ring of fur around its neck and then its fur gets lighter. What we're doing on the body is trying to designate shadow. On the face, we're doing a little bit of shadow and changes in the bunny fur color. So, you know, the white around the eye isn't because there's like a spotlight on the eye and the fur looks lighter. No, the fur's actually lighter. So, it's a little tricky. I feel like I'm being a little too exact with my stitches here after saying not to do that. Alright, let's move to the next color. So here's that light color. I'm going to fill in this eye. So I want to make sure we don't cover, oops, we don't need all that there. want to cover the actual eye. It looks like I didn't put this in the directions, but it's not a bad idea. So what I did is I did like a little bit of an outline. I guess it's backstitch around the eye to kind of stitch into and to define that eye. The purpose being to help define it and hopefully prevent myself from stitching into it or not stitching close enough to it as well, and like leaving fabric showing. I guess you could do this with split stitch as well. Okay, so then now I can like split those stitches I did around the eye. I can stitch into them without disturbing the eye itself, so that it stays nice and plump and a separate entity. Coming together a little bit, huh? Still looks real weird. Real weird. But starting to see it. So be patient with yourself when you're doing all of this. Take your time. It takes a long time. Good lighting really helps. Don't want to do a big patch and then realize you used the wrong color. So be sure to grab the correct color. Like I said, those two are super close. Don't get mad at weird knots like this. Try not to. Oh, that was a miracle. I was pretty sure I was gonna have to cut that. So I'm gonna finish the eye, and then I'm gonna do the chin, and then I'll do some stitching offline. And meet back up, at least to do the details for sure. If there's any other things that come up that I think are worth filming, I'll let you know. So you might notice sometimes I do a traditional split stitch, and other times I'm doing more of a back split stitch. And when we're doing they're painting a fur, I think either is fine. For me, I'm going back right now because I find that I just have more accuracy that way. Alright, I feel like I made my bunny a little angry. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna come back here to my cute little off-white chin. Right up to that nose. here's where we start doing that overlap of the body that I mentioned. So that's why I like to do the body first. That was a very long stitch. So I'm going to wait to do this little piece because I need to do the body there. So this is probably a good place to stop. So I'm going to leave you here. I'm going to keep stitching. Hello. So I did some more work on the bunny. All I have left is to fill in with that medium color here in the top of the ears there, and then I'll do the details. So I'll show the details on camera, but for right now we're going to jump ahead a little bit and start working on this flower here. So I've got the green. Let's go ahead and we'll start from the top, doing the back stitch. And then once we get down to the bottom, we'll be able to do the leaves. So this is going to be back stitch. And you can actually, while we're up here, we can do teeny little straight stitches for those little buds, so we don't have to come back for them. They're very tiny. So I didn't include every little flower on here. Here, I'm going to jump back to the back stitch. The reason being I was afraid it would just get way too confusing as far as what's what. So hopefully it all makes sense when I show you. So I'm going to jump way down here. I see a little bit of the stem showing here. Maybe a tiny bit shows through here. And then I'll finish. I think earlier I said it was going to take hours to do the bunny, and it didn't actually take hours. Of course, I'm not done yet. All right, so I'm going to do satin stitch for these leaves. Is not in focus. It's kind of up to you, stitch direction, what you want to do. I just kind of start in the middle. That's turning out very strange. That was. That looks so weird. Okay, I think maybe you should start at the top. This feels better. I'm going to add a couple stitches on this one because it looks pretty terrible. Maybe that looks a little better. I don't know what happened there. Let's see. This one feels better. This is bugging me right here. Okay, we're gonna let it go. We're gonna move on. Okay, pink, light pink. Let's go. Let's make sure to come up on the outside of the guideline. Just remember, these guidelines are permanent, so I want to make sure we cover them. So going to the center. And use very light tension here. These are just nice fluffy straight stitches. Oh, just converging in the center. So there's one of these flowers in the crown. It's up to you what color pink you want to use. I use the medium color, but you could use the light, the medium, or the dark, also known as red. in this case. So here you can see where it's useful to have those little gaps in the fur, so we know where to put this flower. So here, it's kind of hard to see what on earth, where's my guideline, what am I doing? Just make a 5-petaled flower. So it looks like in my sample hoop, let's see what I do. I actually did that flower the next color, but I wasn't paying attention. And it's gonna be fine. So we're gonna keep going. Basically, you just want to do, concentrate the lighter pink towards the bottom. And then do medium and then red, and then use like the darker colors kind of as like the background flowers, if that makes sense. It will in a sec here. Alright, so I'm going to move to that medium pink. And do the next couple of flowers. Alright, so while I'm here with this color, I'm now going to kind of go back down, and like here we can see some of these guidelines, and I'm going to like fill in gaps with some straight stitches. They don't necessarily have to make much sense as far as like, well, where's the rest of the flower? Or if you want, you can say, all right, well, this is part of that same flower. And then like here's part of it sticking out here. And then let's like round out the whole thing by putting just like one petal here. And then here's that guideline that was showing. Let's put one here. And then maybe just one more right here. Okay. And then we'll move to the darker. Got our red here. And I'll start at the top. I'll do this teeny little buds. Or just teeny little stitches. It's good practice for the bees later when we're doing it all with teeny little stitches. Okay, so then we'll add some straight stitches here to kind of fill in this gap. Whoops. Just grabbed my floss pile. Let's see, where else do we want just like a tiny, I'll just like put like one stitch right here. Looks alright, yeah. Maybe one here. I don't know, there's room for you to kind of make it your own and add more, add less. Yay! I think that looks pretty. Okay, so let's see, let's scoot over here a little bit and look at the strawberries. We're gonna get them started. We're gonna do the leaves first, so we already have the 2-ply of that dark green ready to go. Alright, so we're gonna do our berry leaves, or I guess these are strawberry plant leaves. We're gonna do fishbone. Alternating which side we come up and then go down. I'm not too worried about these leaves. Like, a lot of these are going to be covered up. This is going to kind of fade into the background. Here's like a weird half one. It basically, I don't know, like here's my center line and I can still go back and forth. Sort of, kind of. Oh, that looks real bad. It basically turns into like a satin stitch, weird angled satin stitch, filling in such a small piece of a leaf. Do later. Let me just show you. Let's move on to the berries. Let's get those started. So this is going to be a padded satin. So I'm actually coming up at the edges, even though probably we'll end up stitching over this. Or maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how puffy it ends up without me doing tons of padding. So similar to how we did the nose, but we're using 6-ply. And one thing I'm making sure to do is just like really using loose tension when I do this. So see how easy it is to get my needle under there. So you can do it like this, or you can actually do the layer of stitching under to help keep that padding. I don't know why I didn't do that. We can add some on this side. Oops, where's my hoop? So that would be like an under stitch, and then here's a stitch going on top. Now I'm paying attention to like my bottom edge, not so much the top edge because it's going to get covered by those lighter green leaves. So you can see, yeah, this is puffier now because I snuck that stitch under there. But I found myself doing, when I was doing them before, like I kept just adding more and more layers on top because I was trying to just like smooth it out. I was like trying to smooth out this line, but here now I'm doing a much better job. Come on, friend. Oops, oh, look how twisty that is. Alright, I'm gonna come in here and kind of puff this up a little bit because I want it smooth. That last stitch was not good because it got twisted from that knot. I don't know if you can see that, how twisted that stitch is. Let's see if we can work with it. And then, let's see, I'm going to come from the top down here because then we have this ridge where I did padding and then I didn't do padding here. So here's, we're just going to go right on top. So that's what's going to make it padded, right? So it's almost like a sculpture. You just kind of like work both sides to shape it. Let's see. It's not horrible. that'll work. Let's see how this goes. So I got my my bright green here. Moment of truth. We're gonna do 4 stitches. We're piercing. So I want to make sure I'm piercing. So like right here, I'm going in between stitches. I want to try to really pierce a previous stitch because then it doesn't like split the stitches apart from each other. So I'm going to come down at the top center of the berry. And when I do this, I want to be nice and gentle. Just letting it just rest on top there. Just having a little nap. So let's see. And you can be kind of, what is the word? I can't think of the word. I need lunch. That's my problem right now is I need lunch. Oops, I just tightened this. Okay. Methodical. Methodical is the word. About where you come up. And I think I did 4 on each. Oh, I didn't put the stripes yet on the berry leaves. We can do that. Alright, so that's that. Nice light tension. What do you think? How did yours go? I hope it went okay. See, I do need a single strand to do the seeds, but I don't have that ready. So we're going to just do these stripes really quick on the leaf that I forgot to do. And they can just go wherever. Like if you don't even want to do stripes, then don't do them. But this is all it is. It's just adding some straight stitches to add a little bit of variation in her leaves. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to finish the fur. I'm going to make the rest of my strawberry plant leaves. Oh, I'll probably stitch this whole flower over there as well. I'll stitch my other berries, and then when we get back, I'll show you the berry details, how to do the seeds, how to make the strawberry plant flowers. And then the last flowers we have are the dandelions. And then we finish up with a bee. So still some work to do. Oh, and of course, like the details. I'll show you the details on the bunny. Hey, welcome back. So you can see I've done quite a bit of stitching. So I did end up filling in the rabbit with all of the fur using the different keys in the directions. So next what I need to do is just finish up with the details. I have a single ply of the dark brown color. It's kind of cool to look at this versus the finished piece to see the difference it makes. Just to add that tiny bit of that dark brown in very specific places. So let's give it a shot. All right. So we're going to add some near the nose here, and I'm just going on top of my other stitches. And I wouldn't call this long and short stitch. I'd call it more of a thread painting technique, I suppose. It's the only place the stitches really touch each other, these brown stitches I'm doing, would be like in this ear here. And with that ear, we're kind of creating a shadow on it, so it looks more like it's in the background. So I'm just using either the photo or you can use the diagram as a guide. And really you can add as many stitches or as few stitches as you would like. You have a whole yard of this color in your kit, and I'm only using a single ply, so you have a good amount to work with. If you want to fill in more than what I do, you can, and your bunny will look a little bit darker. So up here, I'm just kind of making shadow. Try to go right up and almost tuck under the flower there. So just making some shadow. That's pretty much it. There's really not much else to say about that. I'm gonna pause and I'll work on the rest of that later to finish mine up. And then the last little thing we want to do with our bunny is just to add a little highlight on the eye. Now one thing, I don't know if you noticed, I think I said before, like my eye was looking kind of angry. If you want to adjust your eye shape at any point, like this is a good time to do it before you add your highlight. If you wanted, you could really just go over it again with another layer of satin stitch to make it pop more, to make it larger. I'm just going to stay where we are, and actually this is probably good practice for what we're going to do right after this. So I'm just going to add a straight stitch on top of this padded satin. And I'm going to be real gentle with it, because if I pull too tight, it's going to get like sucked in and we won't see it. So I'm leaving it really loose. Okay. So now with the back of your thread, at this point, you'll want to anchor to make sure that this doesn't get pulled any tighter if you're continuing to use this color, which we're going to. So that's why I mentioned that. Yeah, so we're going to move on to the seeds on our berries here. So if you want, you can use the white. I mean, if you're using the kit, you should use the 33, this really light white, because we're using the full strand of the white that's in the kit for the flower petals. So just use this off-white. It shows up as white on the berries, like it's bright enough, and I think it looks good having the white flowers be like very, very white in comparison. Okay, so we're just gonna basically do what we did here all over these berries. So I'm gonna do that big one as an example. So what I recommend doing is making these teeny little berry stitches like perpendicular to your stitch direction. So since stitch direction was up and down vertical, we're going to go horizontal with these. So I'm just going to go down very close. Sorry, I had to like hide my nail from you. I forgot, like I messed up that nail and I can't show it on camera now. Heaven forbid you see my weird nail. I used this nice nail polish, but it took hours and hours and hours to dry. It was bizarre. Boop. Okay, something very, very light. Yeah, I think I got some defective nail polish. Oops. So I pulled that one too tight. That was a good, very good demonstration. So what happens when you pull too tight is it sucks the little seed in, and it also can flatten the berry. So if you want to try to fix that, you can try to poof it up. That didn't do anything. I'm not sure that did anything. Let's see if I can pick it up. I must whisper when I do it. It's very dainty. Okay. And back down. So again, I'm trying to do what I talked about before when I was doing the leaves, the strawberry leaves, that we want to try not to come up in between strands of floss, or in between, it's, it's 6-stranded, so in between those twisted bundles, I guess, because that can kind of split them apart from each other. So you can add as many as you like. But my first stitch seems to be sinking over time, which is confusing to me. Where is it going? How did it do that? Very, very loose. I'm like holding my breath when I do that. Okay, don't forget to breathe, everyone. So just be random with them, whatever that means to you. And don't forget to breathe. Okay, so you'll want to, again, weave in your end so that it doesn't get caught on anything and yank, because then the last seed that you did will get pulled like down into the berry, which, it's not the end of the world. But if you want to avoid that, that's how you would do that. Okay, next let's go ahead and let's do the flowers, the strawberry plant flowers. So we're gonna need some yellow, and these will be the centers will be with the yellow. So it's up to you where you want to put them. I made 5. 5's a good number. It's a nice number. So I would suggest doing one here, right? Because we have a hole. I would suggest doing one like around here somewhere. Well, let's just start here. Let's start here and see what happens. Okay, so French knot. So I recommend you can just do a single wrap, and that's going to make it a lot easier. So we're going to put the tip of our needle down near where we came up. Don't want to put it in the same hole, but very, very near. Pull that wrap gently, like to the left, so that it lays down flat on your fabric, and then you pull your needle through, like so. All right, let's see, where did I put all the other ones? Oh, see, I didn't even put one there on. Why is this pattern different? Let's see. No, I did one. Okay. Yeah, I kind of did one there. It just like looks a little bit more off to the side. Okay. I did one here, 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 and then over here. But you can put them over here too. It kind of depends. It's your own little strawberry patch. So plant it where you want them to grow. How about that? Let's do one here. I'll come back and make the rest, but I'll show one of them at least. Okay, so those are the flower centers. If you're not into knots, you can just do like a padded satin, like a really tiny satin stitch that you kind of build up to make it poofy, like a granitos, which is what we're going to do next. All right, so actually this is going to be an easier place to show. So I did my flowers with 5 petals, and they can really go wherever you want them. Like I said, this is where you get to be creative. 1, teeny tiny petals. 2, 3. Four and 5. Okay, so those are pretty skinny, sad petals. So we're going to go back and we're going to fatten them up by adding another layer on top of them. So I guess you could say granitos is like a padded straight stitch. But you know what I'm gonna, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I was thinking I would make the other stitches go the opposite direction, the ones on top. But I don't know if I'll be just confusing the matter. Let's do it. Let's try it. So I'm gonna go the other opposite side. And the reason I'm thinking of trying this is because, oh, that looks super weird. Okay, that was a fail. Okay, don't do that. So the reason I was wanting to try that was because, oh no, I have this annoyingness here. Let's see. Let's see if we can use this to our advantage. So like the strawberry plant flowers, they're like kind of fat. So I want them more wide than long. But perhaps there's a better way. So I'll tell you the truth of how I did the other one for the sample hoop. So we know we're gonna have to add another stitch here. So that's 3 stitches and some fuzz. I guess that's okay. We can work with this. Okay, so I was trying to save time when I did the little flowers on the other sample hoop. And so I used 6 strands doubled over and just did a single stitch with 12 strands. But like it turned out, I mean, they turned out okay, but they're just kind of messy and slightly chaotic. Let's look at them. So, I mean, I guess they're okay. I think the most important thing is like however you want to make them. You can see that I created a lot of depth by making them very loose and then even like sticking my needle under to kind of poof them up. So whether you want to do how I secretly did it over there, which is stitching with this doubled over length to make them very poofy. The problem is that like the 2 lengths, they don't really like to play well together. So it's hard to make sure that they stay friendly and poofy. It's a balance. So perhaps doing this more, I mean, this obviously takes a lot more stitches. Let's say I've done 3 on each to kind of recreate that look. And they're definitely not granito stitch now that I'm doing it. They're more like satin stitch, but very puffy. Yeah, that one looks good. That was just 2 stitches. This top one looks good already. What do I have? A little knot. I have a little knot. Okay, it's good. Just lost this. Come back. Okay. That I'm actually happy with. Gentle tension. Okay. Puffy little flower. Let's see, I'm wondering if I should show you guys what I did for these. Well, no, let me just try doing this one with granitos and like actually following the instructions. Teeny tiny stitch with a teeny tiny stitch on top. But make it puffy. So when you're stitching one of these flowers up here, for example, there's a lot going on, right? There's some bunny fur, there's some leaves. Just go ahead and stitch right through those. Try not to stitch through the strawberries because we don't want to deflate them. Alright, this seems totally fine with granitos, so I don't know why I was on the struggle bus over there. This is just gonna have like a tiny... I think I made this flower too close to these berries if I want to avoid actually stitching on top of the berries. So that's kind of like a hidden flower. It's like behind this berry. That works. If I were to do it again, I'd move it up though. I would definitely move it up. So, okay. Well, that was interesting. But I think you got it. There's lots of solutions to every problem, as just illustrated. Okay, so let's do the dandelions, shall we? So I'm gonna use that yellow again, and let's see here. We're gonna do turkey work. If you've never done turkey work before, ever, I would pause and take a look at that, because we're doing some turkey work here, but in a very confined space. So it could be hard to follow along because well, you'll see. It's a bit, I don't want to say a mess. It's kind of a mess. All right, so we're gonna do, you can see where I left the little hole to let me know this is where we're gonna do the other dandelion. So I have my 6 strands. I'm actually gonna come down. So this is where I'm gonna do all my turkey work, starting up here and then kind of coming down. And then it's gonna get this satin stitch on top to push it up. And then I'll also demo the one up here where it's just gonna be like forward facing. These are sunshine facing. All right, it's gonna go down. And we don't need it too long because we're gonna trim it pretty short, but it's easier to start with more than less. So then I'm gonna do like the smallest little stitch on top of here. So a lot of times when you look at turkey work, you see it like worked in rows, but we're filling such a small spot that it's like there's only like there's gonna be like one turkey work loop per row, essentially. All right, so now I'm on my next row. So I'm gonna come up nearby. I'm south of this tacking stitch here, and I'm just gonna, there's like the correct way, and then there's the way that I do it. So what we can do is we can actually tuck back in to the previous tacking stitch. It's a little weird again because it's not in the same row that we're working on. We're working on like a blob. I'll just go for it. All right, I'm gonna tuck back in here and then make sure we leave a loop, okay? Loop. And then I'm gonna do another one of those little tacking stitches here to tack over where I came up from my previous loop. Okay. And then I'll do a new one. I'll come up here and I'll tack under. At this point, I don't actually know what I'm tacking under. I can't tell because it's just a big blob at this point. But I'm going for it. So there's 2 loops. We'll do another tacking down here. Basically, every time you tack down like this, you should be able to pull on these loops and they don't go anywhere. If that is true for you, then I don't care what you're doing. Like, I don't care how many loops you got, how many tacking stitches you have. If you're able to do that, then in this case you have a successful turkey work, okay? So what was that? That was 2 loops. I think I decided like 3 loops is pretty luscious. So let's do a third. So at this point, I mean, we've got a mess of stuff. We can already, I'm actually just going to come up through all these stitches. Because at this point, it's kind of like self securing. So I'll come down here. And then I'll finish by just coming back up. Now those last 2 stitches aren't going to be as secure as the previous ones, which is going to be fine because we're next going to take, oh, do I not have that ready? Looks like I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. Oh yeah, because I grabbed the wrong color. Okay, I have fixed myself. Okay, so I have this next color we're going to use, and we'll start, I guess, here, see how it goes, and we're just going to do like a satin stitch over all this turkey work. And what that's going to do is push that turkey work up and also secure. These are essentially like the tacking stitches for that last turkey work loop. I don't know when my fabric got so loose in the hoop, but that's annoying me. The embroidery elves came out and messed with my stuff last night, I guess. Alright, while I'm over here, I actually am going to add another stitch on this one because I feel like it needs to lay down a bit more. There. Alright. So you can shape that however you want, and then to do the stem, we're doing a back stitch. And it's okay. I mean, I can see where I'm going. Like, here's the bottom of where I'm aiming for, but all this down here we're going to cover up with the grass, so it's okay if you don't make it back to where you're technically supposed to go. Okay, so that was my back stitch. I just came up at the base and I'm going to whip each one make sure that last one, give it a nice tug so that you're not like undoing your last back stitch as you whip. Sometimes it can get pulled up. So it's definitely tricky on the fur. So make sure you're just whipping that back stitch and you're not whipping any long and short stitch. And then I'm just going to go back down, tuck that in here. And if you want, you can add like a couple of straight stitches. You know, dandelions, they have those little funny leaves at the top. Kind of messy looking leaves that just flap around. I didn't do any over here. We'll do one here. All right, and then fun part of turkey work, possibly the stressful part of turkey work. So I was actually on my club last night. We did a live stitching a couple times a month, and we were talking about turkey work and how you really want to approach it like how you would approach cutting your bangs. You know, we definitely start very conservative and we go slow. Just making little tiny changes so you don't end up without any bangs. So, same here, because if we go too short, there's really no way to fix that. You have to redo it. So make sure you have some nice sharp scissors, good light as always. So first I like to just cut the loops. There are 3 loops we had in here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so there's our strands. So obviously these are very, very long. So this is even, it's usually awkward, but it's even more awkward on camera as it turns out. Come here, everyone. My goodness. Chop. All right, that was a nice chop. Satisfying. So I tried to give them a little bit of shape. I don't know if you can tell that they kind of have like a little bit of roundness to the top. And I also kind of made like a little front row if possible. So kind of, you know, these ones closer towards us would be a little bit shorter than the ones in back. Or just cut them, like don't worry too much. I mean, if you want to leave yours that long because you're like, oh, I don't want to mess it up, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now and just do this. That's so long. Too long, too long, too long. But looking good, looking good. Alright, here we go. Lint rollers are good for this. Bye-bye. I mean, these lint rollers are awful. I got these lint rollers. They're supposed to be good for cat hair, and they don't do anything. Ugh. Okay, if you have tweezers, you might need them for some of this. That's looking pretty good, actually. What do you think? Besides the mess I'm making with the bits I've already cut. I think that looks pretty good. It looks like I got, like, this is a lot poofier over here. Looks like I did more layers of satin stitch. So you're obviously welcome to do that if you want to build yours up a little bit more. Let me just get a little off these little corners. I don't know if you could see, like, I'm cutting such a small amount when I do this. I'm happy with this. All right, let us move on. So, who's this? Is this? Okay, this is the yellow from my French knots. So we'll do this one here. It's up to you if you want to start from the top and go down and do like the rows. I don't know. I think I'm gonna do, usually I start from the center, honestly, when I do a circle like that. So I'll just do what I do naturally rather than trying to fake it. Okay. So I'm gonna start the same. I come down, I do a little anchor on top. Now, I'm gonna come up, and so a lot of times you'll see, if you're looking at instruction for turkey work, it's gonna show almost like a back stitch base for doing those anchors, those stitches that go on top, which is cool. Definitely do that if you want to do that. I also will, and I think I did it here too, is using split stitch instead. The thing with back stitch is, I mean, you can see it pretty clearly here, the direction that forces my turkey work, which is like what we want when we're doing these flowers here. But for this flower, we want the turkey work to come out towards us. So that's why I like the split stitch, because then it's just coming out towards us, right? It's not angled. It's not being forced down. Oops, I just pulled my loop. Come back, loop. And then here's some kind of anchor that incorporates the last. Loop added. Let's do another loop here. And this time we'll just pierce down through that anchor. And then now I'm kind of working in a circle, I guess. Kind of spiraling out. Anchor, oops, anchor. And then next loop will pierce that anchor. Okay. Anchor that last loop. And the next loop pierces that. Oops, there's that ugly nail again. I don't want to see that. Nobody wants that. Okay. That's a lot. Let's see. That's what was that? 5 loops? That's probably plenty. So we'll go ahead and put a little stitch on top of that last anchor I did. This time I'm kind of forcing it down because I'll push everything up in theory. And I'm gonna go ahead and come straight through that last anchor. And I will cut here. Cut my loops. So you can see this is behaving a little differently than these, right? These were all laying down. This is coming out towards us. Same rule applies with the haircut. What a mess, huh? So I feel like this one needs to be shorter since it is coming out towards the viewer. But again, it's up to you. More opportunities to have fun with it. Shape it how you want to shape it. Remember, this stitch is apparently originally used for rug making, so when you're up close and personal and trimming it like this, you can definitely tell. You're like, oh wow, I'm making a carpet here. All right, I could keep going, but I'll do that on my own time. Here's just a view. This one, legit, it looks like a pom-pom. I trimmed it a lot. And it seems like the more you trim it, like the more the 6 strands kind of disappear and you just get this puff. Puff. Okay. Hooray. Okay. I thought we were almost done. We're almost done, not almost done. I'll just tell you about some grass. And then we'll do the bee. And then we're done? Yeah, then we're done. So for the grass, excuse me, this is another opportunity to kind of play and decide. So I don't even have a pen anywhere near me. It might be, at this point, you might want to look and say, you know, how am I going to frame this piece? Is it going to be in this hoop? And you might even want to get it in the hoop perfectly straight. Like mine's off center right now. That way you kind of map out, okay, how far do I want the grass to go on each side? Like how far up, how far down? On the sample hoop, you can see I kept it really like light and airy. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but we're just making grass like this, just making grass with this color. This is the lightest green, and you can go up through the bunny here, cover, so obviously you'll want to finish your flowers down here before you do the grass, because depending on where I put those flowers, right, I actually wouldn't need grass under there as well. It's like over here you can decide, okay, let's say it's going over the fur, but maybe it's going under this leaf. Kind of work some stitches in this empty spot here. And that's about it. You just fill it. You know, you can kind of keep it sparse and then go back and add another layer depending on how much you want. You can come down here and then put some of these stitches over front of these things. This will really kind of anchor everything and put everything in space. So you're going to use this color and then a single strand of the medium green. So use variety with your stitch length, use variety with the stitch angle, and have fun. It's almost like, I guess it's almost like filling with fur. I got another knot, can you tell? Come on. Well, that's that. Alright, so last I'll just demo, we'll do this bee up here. These are just adorable. So, come up at the end of the guideline. And you're going to go down, I guess just at the head. There's our bee body. If you feel like your bee body is like not poofy enough, you could do a second stitch over the top. Wouldn't hurt. Okay, bee body. And then let's see, here's my black. Oops. Single strand of black. So we have a little head over here somewhere. That was very very little. Let's make it a little bigger. Oops, what have I done? Where did it go? What just happened? Okay, I think I went, I just collapsed in on myself. I basically went up and down the same hole because I just made a really big hole here. See, this guy's kind of like angled up. So I don't want to go too far down here. What am I pulling? I've created a slight mess on the back of my hoop. Okay, I'm gonna go over this stitch I just made. Okay, that's like the head of a bee, sure. Then we gotta do some stripes. If you can do 3 stripes, then you have mad skills. So I'm gonna come up one side, go down on the other. We're essentially couching that really short straight stitch. Really light. 1. And 3 will be kind of a cheat because it's just going to be like at the butt. Just cover the butt. 3. Mine are not wonderfully spaced, but I'm going to go with it. So if you want to do like an antenna, you can do a little straight stitch up here. Oop. If you want to do a little leg, you can have one sticking down from here. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a little trick. So I want to kind of pull this one over a little bit, so I'm gonna catch it. And then go down. Did that work? It may have worked a tiny bit. Okay, and then grand finale, we have our 30-33, that very light color we used on our bunny. And we're just going to do our little wing. I'm going to do a similar trick here. I'm not going to pull that stripe. Am I? Sure. Pull it right there. Sneaky, sneaky. That's a bumblebee. That's the end. I hope you had fun. I would love to see what you ended up stitching. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email anytime. It's Jessica@jessicalongembroidery.com. And that's it. Have fun.